Looking back, I realized that I was treated like prey from the very beginning. Most of the core team members I interacted with acted like hunters, trying to figure out what they could get from me. When I first joined the church, I was likely viewed as financial support prey, because they assumed I was wealthy, having worked in the economic hub of Shenzhen for several years. But they soon found out that I wasn't rich. My savings were just enough to cover the tuition for biblical studies and basic living expenses. Then, they hoped I could offer free labor to the church, treating me as labor prey. Actually, I was happy to serve in the church and apply what I'd learned, sharing the gospel with members and newcomers. But one of the elders, Brother Sam, and his wife, Sister Helen, asked me to help with their private chores weekly, free of charge, assuming they had the privilege to do so. I declined because I had a heavy study load, and their request was unreasonable. Afterward, I was assigned as the receptionist for newcomers and assistant teacher with Sister H in the New Life Course team. The spiritual leader likely placed me in what he considered a humble role where I could be used but not seen as a threat to his authority. Yet ironically, I felt joyful and fulfilled. I had prayed for a chance to serve. Generally speaking, most of the core team members had a bullying or invasive mentality that wasn't immediately obvious. But as they got familiar with me and tested my boundaries, their true attitudes became clear. One sister from the core team, Zena, greeted me at my first visit during the Thanksgiving party. That very night, she messaged me and asked me to find biblical stories for the upcoming New Year celebration. I came up with 4 ideas, I no longer remember exactly what they were, and sent them to her. Immediately, she asked me to write a drama based on them. I declined. I had just traveled home from southern China to the northeast during winter and had many chores to handle. Besides, it seemed like she wanted me to finish a task she had promised to do herself. After the next Sunday service, she approached me again, saying, "You can just try for fun." I was a bit surprised and asked, "Isn't this performance for worshiping God?" She had graduated from a seminary in Malaysia with a major in biblical education. She looked embarrassed and displeased. Later, she even asked if I could buy her a new computer or other items. I refused. My own computer was already outdated, and I needed it for my online studies. I also believed she could afford one, as she had a monthly income. From then on, she resented me and started looking for opportunities to embarrass or undermine me in public. Zena proposed organizing a home visitation team under the guise of caring for others, and the spiritual leaders supported it. I was soon informed that I'd be visited the following Friday. Zena and another core member, Esther, came to my home. I thought we would discuss faith and mission work. Instead, they pried into my privacy, my personality, experiences, assets, and financial status. Esther was the first sister who smiled at me and helped me get familiar with the church, unlike many others, who were indifferent or even unfriendly. But I later realized that her warmth was just a disguise for traps and lies. Esther asked for advice on caring for her aging parents, knowing I had worked in nursing homes. I gave her some suggestions and even visited her parents. She gradually shifted the conversation to my biblical studies. Initially, it seemed like she was curious about Christianity, but in reality, she was more interested in certificates and degrees, tools for polishing her image and pursuing benefits in local churches. Once, she asked how to remember Absalom and Joab in 2 Samuel, because their Chinese names were similar. I noticed she wasn't devoted to reading the Bible regularly, but I still explained briefly and recommended memorizing their English names. Later, she asked me, "What is the Holy Spirit?" At that time, I was studying pneumatology and gladly shared with her. But she showed little interest. I was surprised. How could a longtime core team member, who had claimed to be a Christian for over 10 years, not know the Holy Spirit? Another time, she texted me asking for the meaning of the English word, exhort, saying she couldn't find it anywhere despite trying for a long time. I told her the meaning: it's an important word in the Bible. Then it hit me, the word was easily searchable. I started to suspect it was a test or a lie. A year later, she asked me the same question again about Absalom and Joab, like she'd never heard it before. I realized she had been probing and testing me all along. Since she mentioned exhort, I wrote her a letter, exhorting her to take her faith seriously. Eventually, she tried to isolate me from others at church. She checked my financial situation and tried to persuade me to go into business with her. That's when her real motives became clear. Once she saw she couldn't manipulate me, a subtle, deep-rooted jealousy emerged. Every time before a final exam, I would post in the WeChat fellowship group to let them know I wouldn't be attending that week. Esther joined the group to monitor my schedule. On 3 occasions, she disrupted my final exams with unnecessary messages, calls, and even toxic information. One time, she called me just as I began an online exam, crying and saying that she had invited an elderly man to our Thursday fellowship and asked the leaders S&H to pick him up, but they didn't respond well. She was emotional and angry. I told her I was in the middle of an exam and prayed for her, but also reminded her to talk to the leaders directly. She kept messaging me anyway. I had to turn off my phone and rushed to finish my exam at midnight, exhausted. The next morning, she posted in the WeChat group politely, saying she had arranged a taxi for the man and the leaders just needed to help him upstairs when he arrived. They responded quickly. Then she sent me a voice message, "Oh, I forgot you had an exam last night. I hope you did well." She acted decently, as if nothing had happened, offering no apology, only a strange sense of satisfaction. At that moment, I realized I had been spiritually manipulated. What she did felt like harassment. I deleted and blocked her contacts. From then on, I began to reflect deeply on the root causes of these issues within the church.